Hey guys, welcome to another voiceover tutorial. My name is Takemicha, and for this term's voiceover tutorial, we're going to be talking about time management. And basically, I'm gonna explain to you guys how I go through time management and what I expect myself to finish in a certain amount of time. And for this, I took an old piece of mine once again from I'm not sure when, but it's pretty old, as you can see. Pretty old, back when I used to be on Gaia Online and stuff. So I'm gonna take this image and take inspiration and recreate it in my current style. Probably not as refined because we're gonna go through some time limit, and we'll just see what I can do, what I can accomplish in a certain amount of time, and some tips and tricks that I'm gonna share with you guys on how I keep myself kind of restricted to a time frame. So basically, in a nutshell, I try to be as fast as I can for everything that leads up to kind of just laying out like super basic colors. As long as I can finish something like that in a shorter amount of time, and then what would happen after is I would spend the majority of my time kind of refining and correcting the set in quote finished product, which is not really finished because I'm super picky and I end up changing a lot of things. But yeah, let's get started. So let's try to see what I can do. Let's first of all, let's the first time frame, usually I start off with a sketch, so just to help me visualize and stuff. So let me just create another layer. Let's do phase 1. Let's do like 10 minutes. Actually, probably not. Yeah, 10 minutes. Let's see how far we can get. So basically, I think 10 minutes is pretty good for like a basic sketch. If you want to allow yourself a bit more time to... I'm just trying to like kind of give more curve, because as you can see back then, excuse me, the character was a little bit less dynamic as it is now. So she's got like... Let's try to like emulate and stuff. So let's have her like head this way. So for the dress, it's like and I'm just kind of sketching out the posture, and I'm not really into like how straightforward this is, so I'm gonna try to see if I can kind of make it more dynamic. And then of course the hair, she's got super long hair and her hand is behind there. So I just look at the time. I recommend a short amount of time for sketching, especially because I end up painting anyways afterwards, so the sketch process isn't really that important because it's gonna get covered by shading and stuff. So let's like kind of give her a little bit more of a little shoulder action here, just to be more dynamic, especially with female characters. I tend to like to put them in more kind of dynamic postures, or like super like something that you would not see in real life, like real girls posing normally. So something like that, because it is the fantasy of it that makes it more fun to look at. So after time, for female pinups, it would be like kind of crazy pose wise. So I tend to also use a lot of these. Gosh, I'm actually not sure. Perhaps I can rotate this. I kind of do want to kind of keep the gist of the pose, like in general. Maybe I can do like here instead. And then of course have the shoulder really down like this. This way I think I might be able to keep it fairly straight. So, and then of course the flowy fabric. A lot of the times I would do like first pass on sketches as well. So this would be my first pass where I'm like, okay, this is the general idea of it, and then I do a second pass. Like that. And of course she's got like wings. I feel like I kind of want to make this a bit more dramatic. But let's just go with that. So, of course, this time I have her a bit more kind of angled towards the right or left a little bit more than how I originally had her. But let's see what we could do. So 6 minutes ish now, and this is what we have. And I can see that her hand is kind of hidden, so I'm gonna try to push the hair over here. So this is what I came up with. Probably need to like resize the hand, as the hand usually sometimes I would make the hand too big or too small, but a good indication is the hand should be just more or less the same size of the length of your head once you imagine the hand spread out, like spreading out her palm and stuff. It should match that. So yeah. Okay, so she's got like a cute little ribbon here and another lace here. So I'm gonna relatively keep this pretty much the same sort of design. And this was back, if you guys remember, Gaia Online is like a pixelated community where like you can customize your avatar and stuff, and they had these little wings. And those are like, back in the days, were like the most expensivest item, but nowadays it's not anymore. But yeah, just good old memories. So more or less I have my pose figured out. So I can see that she's kind of like, guess I'll keep it like that. There we go. Just a bit more dynamic. I kind of like this pose, even though the wings are not exactly the same. But I'm gonna keep it like this just for that nice triangular shape sort of thing. So this is my phase 1, where it took me around 10 minutes to do. And usually before I started spending too much time on sketching, but before, I used to take no less than 5 minutes or 10 minutes max just doing super rough sketch, and my sketch will look really crazy. But now I kind of take my time to do more or less more polished sketch. But yeah, this is like back in the days where I just didn't really care about sketch that much. But yeah, definitely recommend you guys to allocate 10 minutes max if you can help it for the sketch if you are looking to paint. And of course, if you are more of a line art artist, then you can spend a bit more time finishing the line art. But yes, that's pretty much what we have for phase 1, and I think that this didn't go too bad. I'm just going to kind of make this a little bigger because I feel like this sense of full body requires quite a bit of planning and such. So there we have it for the pose. And yeah, so this is gonna be like 10 minutes or so. Let's say it took me 9 minutes, because right now I'm looking, it's 9:44, and it probably took me like 1 minute to just talk in the beginning. So this was 9 minutes. Let's just cap it right there, and then we are gonna do the other phases. Alright guys, I think I'm ready for phase 2, but before that I'm just going to try to do a few things. So I'm going to move this up, move the background in here. There we go. So now we can do different layers. So let's do phase 2 and let's kind of see how long it takes us to complete it. So phase 2 is me kind of trying to pretty much do a basic color pass on the character. And for this I'm just going to kind of separate a few things, such as the body and the elements that are either overlapping the body or is behind the body. So using the lasso tool, just gonna go ahead and select these different areas. So the lasso tool actually makes this a lot faster compared to when I used to do this just with a brush and trying to kind of paint everything, isolate everything up. But yeah, so we're using the lasso tool and that should be done fairly fast. Oh yes, don't forget different layers. So this is my body, and then I'm gonna do a separate layer for hair so that you can still fix certain elements like the hair and such, since they're on a different layer, and it's probably easier that way. Let me just kind of indicate a little bit flowing over there. So let's kind of color it a different shade of, lighter shade of gray, just to kind of indicate where I've selected. I just wanna, there we go. Okay, so now for the wings. So the hand, I guess, I originally had the idea of having a bit of hair overlapping the hand, so I'll get to that later. But for now, we're gonna create another layer for the wings. Oh gosh. So there we go. So pretty basic wings that are closed. I'm gonna choose another shade of dark gray for this. So there we have it. This is our first silhouette, and I noticed in the background I had a little bit of an ombre, little background color, so I'm just gonna add that just for consistency's sake. So yeah, let's get started. This took me around 3 minutes, and let's just go ahead and start filling in some of that basic color with airbrush. Airbrush I like to use because it's fast, it's soft, and yeah, it's pretty much the reason. So get that isolated. Oh gosh, I should probably use a bit of whatever color I used back then, so I just selected the same color back then. And also, so now comes the phase of kind of using the lasso tool to more or less select the different elements of one layer and just kind of paint it on. So because I already have the colors already there, I'm just gonna use that, even though it might look a little weird. Oh gosh, okay. So this was the chest color, and then it was like pink like this. Oh gosh, I might have to change the color, but it's looking a little dated. But I'll change it later. But the gist is it kind of fades to a gray or something, and I'm just going to accentuate this a little bit by making the purple, did I say gray? I meant purple. The purple a bit more intense. I believe I wanted to make this part a little bit like orange, or perhaps more skin tone, which I'll probably do that because you know how I am. I like to make things a little sexier. But yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make this a little darker. Oftentimes I would not put in some of these small details just because I know I'll end up having to erase them and then to refine other areas and just putting them back anyway. So for now I'll just do like a cross, so this going down here and this one going I'm not really into the placement of these, honestly. But let me just try to put them in the appropriate spots. So one down here too, and then some little neck decorations and whatnot. So for the hair, we have a blonde. So I'm gonna use a dark yellowish color. And then for the wings, it's like pinkish. So let's just use a pinky color. And okay, going to the hair layer, I'm just going to color everything the same color that I use. And also adding a little bit of highlight. Like that. And I'm just going to kind of reinforce the shadow slightly. And then for the wings, it's white, and usually I prefer to give white elements like a bluish undertone. And then just gonna do the shadow real fast like this. So now we have to do also the shadow for this. So I'm just gonna fastly determine my light source, which is over here. So all the shadow will be on the left side of things. So I'm just going very quickly with my lasso tool to indicate the shadow. And I'm just going to very roughly indicate where I think the shadow might be on the dress. It might be a little different once I start refining, but for now it'll be that. So select where I think the shadow is, go into adjustment, brightness, contrast, and then kind of darkening that up. There we go. Alright, so as of now, it's been 7 minutes since I started recording again, so 7 plus 9 minutes, so that's around 16 minutes in. This is what we have, so let's continue. Alright, so now that I've determined pretty roughly the shadow and all, I usually like to turn down the line art quite a bit so that I can clearly see the shading a bit clearer, and then I'm gonna go and start refining more or less. So I'm gonna start working on the dress a bit, perhaps add a little bit of a secondary highlight in the shadow. Usually that gives more of a 3D feel. I'm gonna slightly imply a bit of blue in here like that. And then also using the smudge tool to kind of blend things in very fast, and this would also save time. Kind of on a challenge here. I'm gonna try to see if I can finish things a little faster. So as always, love using the smudge tool, and of course the setting is always have scatter on. Pretty much just have this on and you're good to go. Of course have it off 30% this setting, and then strength always below 5%. I usually go for 1 or 2% because I find that's like the optimal blending setting. Alright, now that we have that, I'm gonna go ahead and try to do this part of the character. So using combination of the lasso tool and the airbrush, and at the same time using also using a solid round brush and kind of just creating sharper shadows or even lining them, sort of like adding line art while you paint. I find that's very efficient when it comes to just determining rough areas, kind of keep certain areas sharper when it comes to shadow, and starting off with the line and emphasize the rest of the area with a darker color for the shadow. So very quickly I kind of like just as fast as I can determine where the shadow will be. Okay, so now let's unselect and kind of work on the rest of the arm, which I think needs a bit more shading. I'm also going to kind of darken up my wings just because I would like the arm to be a bit more visible. So I darken it up so we can see it better, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use the lasso tool to fix the shape a little. It was getting a little thin for my liking, and just going to go back with the darker color to continue to emphasize the shading. All this using pretty much the same tools: lasso tool, airbrush, and solid round brush. When I want to keep it fairly fast, I usually just stick to these. If I feel a bit more experimental, I would use other type of brushes, since it's always good to experiment. And this is precisely where I came to the conclusion that I like the solid round brush and the airbrush the best, like the combo, because I've tried a lot of other brushes and this one works the best for me. So once again, trying to emphasize the shadow as much as I can, and just going to select areas where I want to darken, especially around the head and the shoulder area, because that's where they kind of overlap each other and gives the most contrast when it comes to shadow. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on the dress a little. I can see that there's like blue rim on the outer edge of the dress, so I'm just gonna go address that real fast with a blue color and kind of just contouring it. I also kind of I would like to contour the body, the female body. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my solid round brush to kind of emphasize certain features. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and use the dark color to kind of sketch out where the clavicle roughly is, and then the cleavage is, because no matter what, I prefer to put a bit of cleavage in my female characters, because I do like to draw cleavage, so oftentimes my female pinups are quite busty, and that's pretty much the reason. Okay, and gonna go ahead and use my lasso tool and isolate the area that I feel needs to be isolated. I'm gonna turn off the lines completely because it was bothering me, so just kind of sketching that out. Deselect, and gonna use the airbrush here to kind of roughly blend things together, and then a bit here, add a bit of highlight here. I do want to create a separation and a bit of like wrinkles, so using it to blend it off, and using very sharp small brushes to like create these clothing folds, like just pretty much like that. And gonna raise up the shadow here a bit more, and then bring down the highlight. I'm gonna use the airbrush to kind of sketch out a bit of that anatomy. I do want to make the dress fairly tight, just because, okay, this one is fairly loose, but I do want to emphasize the anatomy a bit more, because I do feel that it does look a little better to indicate anatomy somewhat. That's just, I find that a bit more appealing, so I always do it. And of course, just switching between the highlight and the very thin shadow color to create like those clothing fold. I can just make it slightly skin tight, and half skin tight, half kind of loose-ish, by creating these kind of fun little clothing texture, and then going down, kind of blending things. And I am emphasizing, so the belly button would roughly be here, but I'm probably not gonna, probably just indicate it slightly, because I feel like back then I didn't really have a good knowledge of anatomy, so I didn't really show that in my pieces back then, but now I do have a better idea of it, and a lot of the times I would like to indicate it, and it's just more fun that way. I think a lot of artists feel the same way as I do, and thus they draw very, like, I guess, sexy characters, so more scandalous, or like more skin revealing, and perhaps they do like painting sexy. And another thing is they just wanna they just want to practice anatomy or show it off. So it's not all about making sexy. Sexy just happens to be definition of making more anatomical how do you say, indicators in your character designs. But anyways, I just like that. So just kind of try to blend things in, try not, oh yeah, forgot, indicate a bit of that hippo in there. Let's see how that looks. I'm not really sure, I'm just kind of testing stuff out. I think it's alright. It's not too bad. Okay, so now for the dress. So for the dress, I'm thinking I'm gonna switch to this brush right here. You guys should be able to find this brush in the brush collection that I've included for you guys. And then I'm gonna use it to kind of add some really interesting little texture. I do like to use this brush for hair and stuff like that. Most likely just hair, but I find this brush has a really interesting texture, so I'm gonna use it to see what we can create with it, and also because it's just an interesting effect that we can create with it. So that's pretty much that. I'll probably need to spend a bit more time down here, but I would like to get the rest of the character kind of fairly to a good start. So I'm gonna work on the arm now. So going on ahead and just isolating the arm area now. And notice how I didn't really put the hand, because I'm gonna hide that with the hair after. So, and going back to my brain for an anatomical knowledge of how the arm should be shaded, kind of like in this type of form, because this is the muscle and then you have the other part of the arm connecting to it. Going back to the airbrush and kind of very softly blend that in, and then going for a super dark color over here, lighter color over here. I'm gonna just softly graze a little bit of blue on the side, because the background is kind of bluish or white, and usually white gives off a very bluish lighting in real life. And despite the fact that I don't completely do realistic proportions, I do, however, take inspiration from a lot of the realistic lighting. So yeah, just putting a bit of gray in everything more or less. And let's put a little bit of pink in the fingers. I usually like to put it where the knuckles is and the tip of the finger to give a variation to the fingertips. So that's pretty much that. And now for the hair, and just going to kind of roughly indicate where my hair is gonna go, like that. It's really rough though. And then of course the wings, so I'm gonna have lighting once again coming from this direction using my trusty lasso tool. I'm just gonna isolate the areas where I think the wings will be lit up lighting wise, and just gonna go ahead and roughly put a bit of texture but not too much, and then kind of indicate where the feather will be, so kind of like that, and then it goes this way and this way, sort of. There we go. And now for the head, oh gosh, gotta make sure to lock everything down. So for the hair, just kind of do a pretty general shading, I suppose. I also forgot to put hair over here, but I'll do that after. And then of course for the pinky wings, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a similar pattern. There we go. It's really rough, not really that impressive. And I'm just gonna do the face real fast. So she has a pretty innocent looking face, very wide eye, Oh god, probably not that big. Something like that maybe. And then we have the mouth kind of in an O or something. So blue eyes. Oh gosh, okay. And hair. Nose. The lips. Something like that. I'm not totally happy with the face, but let's start off with this for now. I think this eye is a bit too big. I always paint my eyes super big, so I'm just gonna fix that real fast. So right now it's been 20-ish minutes, so combined with this, it should be around 30 minutes. So this is 30 minutes in. This is what we have, and then we're gonna just continue with that and see what we can accomplish in 1 hour. Alright guys, let's try to see what we can accomplish in an hour's time. So we have 30 minutes to see how much 30 more minutes to see how much further we get into this. So yeah, pretty much I'm just gonna try to see how much I can get done. So immediately I went to auto contrast, which gives a bit of auto contrasting, and then I like to fade it a little. Also, another thing, I totally forgot to flip my character a few times, because that actually do help with kind of noticing errors and whatnot. So I went ahead and did that. Now I'm going to I kind of want to fix the boob here because it looks kind of lopsided. So just gonna fix that a little. Done. Merge that thing down. And then probably gonna try to work on the face, as it does look quite distorted and probably needs a bit more work. So just gonna go ahead and kind of fix the hair. I feel like I'm aiming more towards an anime vibe, since back then when I first started drawing digitally, I was pretty much influenced by anime quite a bit. Didn't know what other drawing styles were, didn't really have any interest in them. Just I read a lot of manga, so a lot of my style was quite anime-like. Okay, so just gonna go ahead and paint in a little bit of the ear because that's what I had, and maybe try to fix up the head a little. Probably need to fix the proportion a bit, or at least move things around a bit. So let me just, actually no, you go over here, merge down, copy, and bring that down a little, like that. Okay, bring that down. So right now I'm just gonna try to focus as much as I can on the body, because usually I know I'll spend way too much time on the face, because I'm really picky about faces. And yes, a lot of my faces do look the same, it's just how I prefer to draw them, sorry. But I am still quite picky about faces and trying to get the best result, or whatever's more appealing to my eyes. So I end up spending a lot of time there, and thus a lot of times back when I just first started, neglected the rest of the character. So now I usually do the opposite. So now I'm focusing more on the other areas of the character, and I only kind of go back to the face once I know that I have a fairly good amount of work done to the rest of the character. So yeah, so shading that area, and also using the lasso tool really helps to shade the character fairly fast. And don't forget to lock down the layer, I totally forgot there. So just kind of using the lasso tool to see how much I can get done. Gonna make this area slightly darker, and then bring that area forward. There we go. And I'm going to do the neck next. So the neck is a little weird. Let's try to do the best we can. So this is shadow, and this is highlight, mid-tone, and shadow. And get a bit of shading going on there just to emphasize the neck, which probably gonna get totally reworked later on because right now it's not looking so good. But for now, I just want to get the shape out there. And also the arm, using the lasso tool to help isolate it, and also unlock the layer to kind of paint a little bit beyond what I had locked down, kind of like that. And then just going to start fixing the shape slightly, and probably here too, using the lasso tool to help me with the shape lockdown, and adding some more highlight down here. I'm gonna use a much darker shadow now to kind of build a bit of shading around the silhouette, just for dimension wise. That usually helps quite a bit. I'm gonna go in for a very even darker color, and then I'm gonna put it here where the armpit meets the chest, just to give that dimension. There we go. Oh god, see, now I have to go back and paint here so it doesn't look too weird. And I'm gonna go here and make the hair lighter. Oh god, probably not lighter, maybe darker over here. Maybe just indicate a little bit of highlight using a slightly lighter color, and then I'm gonna paint in a few strands here and there. And then what I'm gonna do, zoom in a bit more. So right now the problem is the skin is blending a bit too much into the hair, and so I want to figure out a way, like which color I should use to make it pop a little. So I'm gonna use a bit of gray over here just to make the side pop a bit more. And because of that, I'm going to start correcting the side as well. And naturally the cloth is already standing out against the hair, so I just left it as it is, the color as it is, and just going to start just adding a little bit more detail here and there. And let me use my trusty lasso tool once again, and then gonna use a slightly darker color and gonna create these rippling effects. There we go. And I'm gonna lock this down. Actually, I need to select this like that, and then I'm going to kind of start adding some more intense lighting, probably a bit more highlight here. Do want to emphasize that hip area. Oh, probably not looking too good, never mind. Cancel that idea. So continue to add a bit more shadow in certain areas, and then bring it down, probably just kind of trying to figure this out. Just trying to figure out where I should put the highlight and shadow. Sometimes it's a little trickier. Let me delete this whole section. Okay. And just gonna add a little bit of highlight there. And then let's start to add a bit more little texture in the cloth. This is probably where we're gonna start refining the cloth down here a bit better. Okay, so the leg goes like this, so I'm just gonna make that fairly clear where the leg shape is. And I'm just gonna try to accommodate to that now. So this part probably being shadow, so this part would be in lighting, and this part would be in shadow because it's so that we can kind of define the leg a bit more. And then it drapes down like this, so highlight over here. So now I'm just gonna try to figure out where all the little ripples are. And so this part might require a bit more work, but let's see what we could do. So the dress on my original concept is actually fairly light. Let me just fix, I want to fix this area real fast. There we go. Okay, let's make the leg a bit more over. And like that. Let me make this part a bit more heavy over here, since I do want to emphasize the curvature of the leg a bit more, like so. And then drape the fabric down. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in here and pick up a bit of that lighting here, even though probably not gonna be super intense. Gonna brush a little bit over here. And then I'm gonna start to isolate some of these different areas for the little wrinkles in the fabric. And then I'm gonna start painting it in more detail with a combination of airbrush and soft brush. And another one, I'm gonna use my lasso tool and just kind of isolate another little area here. Highlight, shadow, also kind of contouring these little loops that I have going on in the fabric. That way it creates the effect of draping. And I'm gonna invert and put shadow here in between that. And then I'm gonna connect the highlight to these little draperies. Probably here too. Should probably indicate some curvature in on the leg going down or something like that. And then of course the rest of her dress gonna go down like that. And so clean this bit up a bit. So this dress, I guess, is what they call a mermaid tail dress, something like that, something really dramatic. And so let me go ahead and work on the other little areas now too, kind of like that. And let me just isolate that. I'll also probably end up changing the color a little bit later, just because right now, because for the sake of shading and consistency of the shading, I'm just using the same value. But I will end up changing the bottom half of the mermaid's gown into a bit of a lighter color, similar to the original concept years ago. So continue to add these little loops, these little textures, and highlighting them appropriately. This, and Let's add a little here, so again with the lighting and shadow over here. Okay, and I'm going to inverse so I can add a shadow surrounding this. Going back to my solid round brush now. Now I'm going to use my lasso tool and clean some of these little ridges up like these. Go down like that and like that. So pretty much little loops, kind of keeping it fairly. Oh god, probably not like that. I think I'll keep it like this. So sometimes I would like try to do something, and if it doesn't look good, I just end up going back to how it was before. So this is what we have as a base, and just gonna clean some of these areas up. I select this one area because I was planning to put a bit of lighting here, highlight here, so I'm gonna just use that to indicate shadow and highlight where they separate and stuff like that. Okay, so there we have it. Now working on the arm now. Okay, alright, so this is what we have so far. And now what I'm gonna do is really emphasize the highlight here and here. So I'm just gonna do that. Addition to that, I'm just gonna select some of these little ridges and have them in highlight. So I'm gonna stick to this side of things to being highlight just for the sake of consistency in my lighting, and also maybe a bit of the arm as well. So copy, paste, and go into adjustment, brightness, contrast, and then just like make it brighter like this. And as you can see, it lightened up quite a bit. So now I'm gonna blend this all down by just erasing some of these areas here so that it's not too abrupt or too obvious or too intense. So same with here, just erasing some of these areas so that it's not super obvious, and then I go back in perhaps manually with a brush and kind of just start adding some of that lighting color, because since I already edited, I already have the color for it, so I'm just gonna try to paint a bit of that detail down. Okay. And at the same time, I'm gonna erase some of these areas. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Constrain that down. Also probably erasing this part just so it's not super intense. Alright, so let's zoom out and have a look here. It's definitely getting somewhere. So just going to erase a little bit of here and gonna start introducing, actually putting this entire area in shadow, just kind of bringing the shadow in here a bit more. And then I'm gonna bring in the lighter color in as well, like this. And then maybe gonna actually use a slightly lighter color, and let's see, I'm trying to see if I can add somewhat of a shimmer or highlight inside of the shadow and see how that would work. So just kind of layering a secondary highlight into the more darker area of the dress. So time management wise, this part might vary depending on if you have reference or not, because sometimes reference does help quite a bit. Because I have reference here, I think it's going a little bit faster. So I already got the design down and everything. So yeah. Okay. And I'm going to just bring in the shadow here slightly as well. Maybe not that dark. And just kind of gradually blend this out. Maybe not that dark, but still keeping it fairly soft and defined at the same time. So after I go in with the airbrush, I go in afterwards with a solid round brush just to kind of re-establish the shape. Because using the airbrush, you know, you gotta cancel out some of that super softness with the sharpness as well. So yep. And going in here, going back here with some highlight. And trying to shape this area out as well. So right now we're like 10 minutes away from an hour. So I'm trying to get a decent area done, because I do want to show some sort of drastic change, but I guess that's not happening that much. Okay, so we got this down. Sometimes you might think, oh, this might be a bit too intense, and you can kind of lower the opacity a little. This is why always good to have it on a separate layer in case of situations like this. So now that we have that done, I'm gonna try to attempt to fix the face. So I'm gonna start off by putting the face in shadow. Maybe probably need to zoom in for this, but get the eyebrows and the lips. She's kind of pouting in my original concept. Like that. And I'll probably need to actually move the face a little bit over here. Like that. And also probably make it a little bigger. Maybe like this. Nah, like that. And so probably also fix the neck this way. So just kind of adjusting the neck over. Sorry, I'm a little silent trying to fix the head. This would happen quite a bit, and that's why I kind of just fidget around a lot with different parts of the body. And it's also quite good to have them on separate layers for this reason, because I know I'm picky. I know when I go into this, I know I need it on the separate layer in order for my work process to be a little faster, and that's why I do that. And I recommend it if you're just like me who fusses over a lot of stuff. Alright, so still kind of trying to figure out the face. Now, I think it's a good point to kind of flip this over again, just to see how that looks. Alright, it's not too bad. I think need to change the hair over here. Okay, and of course need to fix the face. I'm just gonna zoom into 100% now and attempt to fix it, to kind of refine as well. So her lipstick is more of a pink shade, so let's get that going. And also her eyes probably needs to be redo for now, I'll just do a quick sketch here and a lot of editing as well. Shadow underneath the nose. Bit of highlight where the brow bone is and such. And a bit of a hairstyle change to let's see how I had it before. Okay, so I had it like that. Just wanna, so I'm using the lasso tool to help me kind of switch up the hairstyle, or at least refining it a bit more. And I think the hairdo might be a bit tad high, so I'm going to change that. And then I'm gonna change the shading over here. And then over here, so bring that in. And then this wing too, it's kind of more down here. And I'm gonna just darken that a little bit and add a bit more highlight just because. And then some shadow casted from the wings onto the hair as well. And then the hair that goes a little over. And I'm also going to kind of change the face. Little merge that down. Copy. Widen it and bring that down. And then I'm going to use the lasso tool to kind of reshape the chin a little. Bring that down again. Trying to aim for more of an anime-ish face, so that means the forehead will probably be a little bigger than the chin area. And then down here with these shadows, like that. Before, after, just gonna increase that, bring that down, merge. I think the background needs to be a little darker just because actually no. About let's keep it dark. Actually, let me just make the background white again and just create a custom layer and put this soft glaze here. I think I'm gonna go for like maybe a blue. Now let's go for this color and make it a little darker around the hair just because I would like the hair to stand out a bit more. Okay, so now that we have that, going back, so as you can see, my old concept, the hair is super intensely over dodged and really bright, so I'm going to try to emulate that slightly just by making the hair actually, yes, light like this. And probably need to change the color of the hair as well, because right now it's more of a brownish blonde. I'm going to hue saturation. Gonna aim for more of a yellow blonde, like this, and then further reinforcing the yellow. It does have a bit of neonness to it, like that, and then go down to this layer as well. oops, not this layer, but the hair layer, and also making it yellow blonde like this. Truthfully, not my favorite shade of yellow blonde, but hey, now it's looking more like the original concept. Okay, so now for the wings. Oh, whoops. Alright. Real fast, I'm just going to go ahead and do some very quick shading with the help of the lasso tool and the multiply mode. Gonna select blue as a shadow and just kind of pretty much emulate wing texture. And we'll just like put shadow behind these. That. Probably also indicating shadow here too. And then just kind of make it darker. And it should be slightly more wing-like, and probably gonna make this area slightly darker as well. And now for the hair, just gonna go ahead and also do the same for the hair as well, just selecting the areas where I think it should be slightly darker, and then I'm going to inverse it and then brighten up the whole hair. There we go. And then one more shadow over here. Alright guys, so that ends the 1 hour mark. So it's been an hour. This is what we have. So let me just go through this. So this is first sketch 10 minutes, and 30 minutes in we have a pretty rough thing, and then this is slightly more refined, but not by much, to be honest, not too much. But this is where it slows down for me. Usually it slows down here when I start refining everything, and then it slows down even more when I start kind of editing and correcting stuff. So that's basically how I work. So I'm go back and see how the head shape is slightly more angled that way, and towards the end it's no longer that way. I might have to kind of edit the head to be sort of like the sketch how it was before, because I did like how it looked before. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Always good to have a later version in case you want to go back to it. Alright, so the next timestamp will be 2 hours from now. So let's see what I can accomplish 2 hours in. So that will be an hour from now. Let's see what we can accomplish. Alright. Oh gosh, I need to finish naming these. So this is phase 3 and this is phase 4, where we hit 2 hours in, and immediately I'm gonna try to bring back some of that head angle, because I did really like it. And also in addition, I'm gonna put the head on a separate layer, so kind of matched it to the sketch. And also I think the head probably is kind of angled differently as well, sort of like this, or somewhat like that. Let's just bring that down. Let's see the sketch. Okay, that's not too bad. It's not too off. So another thing is I end up having the head on a separate layer, more or less every single time, just because it's more convenient to edit that way. And yeah, but because of that, we have to go ahead and kind of redo the neck area. So just going back to fill in the neck once again. Okay, that's not too bad. Alright, so now I think I'm gonna focus a little bit more on the face, just to get it to a acceptable result. So let's get started. the portrait itself is totally on a pretty similar level to the rest of the body, because it probably takes me around the same time to finish the face as it is for the rest of the body. Which is kind of I wish I was a little bit less picky about the face, but the face does have quite a bit of contribution to the appeal of the character, so I usually spend more time on it. But anyways, let's try out with our new brush, the brush that I showed you guys earlier, and we're gonna attempt to see if this brush can help us finish things a little faster. I do like to use this brush for hair just because it has that really soft like texture where you can do a lot of these brush strokes. And also I believe this brush is also quite good. Actually, not this one, it's the one without the, nope, not this one, nope, there's one, okay, maybe this one, oh god, nope, trying to find the one without the texture. I think it should be kind of this, and I'm just going to kind of draw the hair out like that. And we're just gonna try to refine as well using the lasso tool. There we go. And then we're gonna go ahead and put the shadow on this side and just keep going with that. I kind of like this brush too, it's not bad. So just shade, add texture, and refine. And just keep doing that until you feel that it's to a good level. Add a bit of highlight on this side and on this little hair area just for that nice contrast. And down here too. Alright. So now I'm gonna switch back to my solid round brush and gonna try to finish up the face here. So first off, gotta paint the nose here, and using a soft pinkish shade for the nose shadow. And gonna go into a warmer color here, smaller brush for a bit more of an intense shadow, as well as for the lips as well, just using a slightly darker color for the lips. That going back with a highlight color and kind of render out the cheek on this side, and then I'm going to just include a little bit of pink here and there. And for the eyes, I'm gonna go ahead and start refining it a little. The eyes will be a little difficult to refine. Just kind of, the eyes is quite big in my old version. So let me just make her eyes a little more open. Like that. Just a little more open, a little bit more round. And of course, add the shadow line for the double eyelid. That. And a little bit of shadow there. So I think she's looking at the audience. So I'm gonna try to make her look a little bit more at the camera. First, need a highlight color. So right now I'm just kind of reshaping her eyes in a way. And also at the same time cleaning it up slightly. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use the lasso tool and then adding shadow. There we go, and then adding shadow underneath the hair strands pretty much, and then afterwards adding strands over the shadow to kind of softening it up. And then I kind of like to indicate a bit of the eyebrows over the hair, even though it's covering the eyebrows, and also the eyes. Let's give her a little makeup wing here. And then some eyelashes as always. I think now it's getting a little bit more better. So now I'm gonna go ahead and kind of fix the pink wings on her head. So I'm gonna start off with a solid shape, add a bit of blue, and then I'm going to start adding the little shadow here, have the little curve, and then going to, oh shit, oops, bring it back. Just kind of shading the outer rim of each wing and kind of tapering it, connecting it like a sunflower, like a little flower to the circle here. I'm gonna add slight dimension to this sphere by adding just a tad bit of dimension, little shadow, contouring the darkened outline like this, and then try to blend this in. And then I'm gonna lock down the layer, and then I'm gonna go into overlay, select the background color, and I'm just going to, actually, I'm going to color on the outer rim, but on top this time, like this. That gives a little bit of dimension, and then I'm going to add a little bit of that yellow on the inside of these wings as to reflect the hair color. And so I'm gonna do this pretty similar thing to the other side, except the other side will be a little easier because we won't be seeing all of the wings. So select that, and then we're gonna shade it up, make it just a little bit darker, add a bit of blue in there, and then add a bit of white on top as to kind of follow suit with what we have going on there. And then inverse, erase to clean up, and deselect. And then just going back here to change up the hair, the bang direction a bit. And just going to go ahead and refine the hair on this side. Add a bit of highlight there, there, and here. Just kind of popping out some different strands for variation. And then just going to shade this up, and then I'm gonna select this area, especially define behind the ear, so that I can do a little bit of shadow underneath it to separate the different section of the hair, and then I'm gonna make sure this part is highlighted, or yep, and then I'm going to paint in the ears with a little bit of shadow on the inner corner. Okay, so now that's what we have. The face is definitely a bit more refined, so this is before, this is after, so she's definitely coming alive a bit more. So in the original concept, the eyes color is definitely a lot paler, so we're just gonna go ahead and use a much brighter color like that, and then put the pupil in. And then what we're gonna do is I'm just going to select the whole head here, go to liquify, so I can like edit it without worrying too much. Just gonna push the head up a little like this. Press OK. There we go. Now it's a little small, so I'm going to just make her head just a little bigger. Like that. And then going to kind of bring in the wings a bit more, lock down my layer, and then shade, add some shadow. Okay, and then add some shadow also on the wing part, and then also add a little bit of yellow in there, and then add some little highlight on the outer corner of each wing like that. Probably needs to be just a bit darker. It needs to be a bit more reddish like that. Okay. So there we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and refine the little chin a bit more. Also the nose. And I'm going to go under the hair and then refine the shading on the face that way, like this, just a bit more softer with the airbrush, coloring it softly. Going to multiply for a bit more of a darker look, so shading it, and then gonna go back to the body layer and then going to use the same multiply layer and just add the shadow, and so as well as add the shadow underneath. Actually, I'll use a normal layer and then just going to add shadow underneath the hair strand. There we go. Like that. Okay, so the hair is like that. Let me just go. Okay, I think this is looking much better. So this is before, after, so it changed the face quite a bit. And now I'm going to work a little bit on the hair now. So once again, I'm going to start refining the hair. So it's gonna be a lot of blending and also a lot of lasso work just to kind of help me separate the different hair chunks, creating the hair texture that we are looking for. So kind of like this every now and then the hair curves around. Oh god, the hair, long hair is especially tricky to do just because of so much hair to cover, and also you have to make sure they look like hair by adding in the texture as well. So it's a little challenging. Just kind of try to keep it textured and clumped in different areas. So there you go. Okay, I kind of like how it's looking. Using a lot of lasso tool to help me create these different hair streaks. Let me just isolate the under here, and then I'm going to use my airbrush to put a shadow underneath there too, and so on and so forth. So it's a lot of just repeating these techniques to create the hair that you guys usually see from me, and it takes a long time sometimes. That's why I don't normally show all my recording, because to be honest, I feel like I work better without recording, and second of all, my computer is running out of space, so try to cut out as much as just the lingering stuff. And also a lot of times I would decide to completely change, well, not completely, but change the pose pretty drastically. I also do not record when I do that sometimes, because it just happens when I'm just like super like focused on something and kind of frustrated, so I try a lot of stuff and usually don't record that as well. But that's what I do a lot of the times. So yeah, I spend quite a bit of time just editing the whole thing after getting a big chunk of it done. But then I go back and be like, I'm not really into what I have going on here. Let me change it. Let me see what I can do to make it feel a little better. So that usually ends up happening. But anyways, right now just kind of trying to create the rough energy or the pose for the hair. Hair posing is a little challenging as well, because gotta make sure it looks good, feels good, and has the hair texture to it. Sometimes it doesn't work out as well. For example, right now I feel like maybe it's too much hair, I'm not sure. But anyways, that's why we have to experiment a lot. And sometimes, a lot of the new stuff you don't like, you have to go back to your old stuff, and I usually try to have like an older version to go back to sometimes. But anyways, so I just kind of used the lasso tool and kind of removed a certain part of the hair just to see how that would go. And also don't forget to flip your image just to see how it is. I actually think it doesn't look too bad. Let me just move the reference to this. Actually I'll move it down, that way it doesn't affect what we have going on here. So I think the hair looks pretty nice this way. I think it needs a bit more, so I'm just going to kind of use my trusty lasso tool and just kind of make the shape of the hair that I think might work a little better, and then paint it manually. I'm just going to make this hair swirl this way, this direction, and then flow it upwards and emphasize this little strand here. I'm gonna have to lasso out where the shadow is going to be, so I do that, and then this strand also overlaps onto these bigger batches of hair. And this is how I would do it. It's a lot of layering for the hair, especially really long hair. Short hair is a little bit easier because you don't have to layer as you don't have to layer long hair as much. Short hair is a lot more easier to layer. And so just kind of going back and creating these different textures for the hair, like that. And gonna put another one, gonna bring another strand up, overlapping whatever's behind them. Just going to clean out the shape of that. And also removing some chunks of the hair, like that. Now let's zoom out, have a look, see here. So yes, having a bit more negative spacing does make the hair look a bit more realistic, seeing as how it's just more interesting to see different layers that I'm creating. Okay, so just keep refining. Put this part in shadow. Let's kind of isolate this area and then put this part in shadow and bring a little bit of the strand up, like that. And then isolate that section and then shade that, like that. And then like these. So just gonna bring in this strand right here. I'm just gonna use my lasso tool again to help me make this as straight as possible, and then shade this area, and here too, indicate shadow there, and continue the strand. Same with this strand here, so it's a lot of strand continuation. Maybe pull this up a little. But in general, it's going more or less in the same direction. Put a little shadow there. Alright guys, we're approaching an hour and a half just working on the hair, so the hair definitely takes up takes up a chunk of the time for sure. Okay, so let's continue with that. Just going to emphasize a little bit in the background. This. And down here too. Down here. And then up here now on the other side. The other side won't have that much detail, but it still requires just a little bit of refining. Just going to use my lasso tool to isolate the shadow I'm gonna put under. Deselect. Add a little strand here for texture. And continue onward. Alright. Let me just circle this area. I think it needs to be a little brighter. Like that much. And actually, maybe like move this, make it just a, actually, not sure. Maybe put it somewhere like that, and then clean some of this up here. And I'm going to have this part cleaned up like that, and probably going to clean this area up too. Let me just make this hair go this way. Like that. And then clean some of the stuff in here. And I'm gonna go ahead and isolate this chunk right here. I'm gonna put highlight there. And then using the solid round brush, indicate a little bit of hair there. And just kind of continue. Select a few little strands in the back like that, just for detail's sake. And then here too, just a little bit. We don't really need that much on this side. Let me just select that chunk and add shadow underneath it. Lock down the hair layer. Select this one, and I'm gonna add a bit of shadow there, and on here too, and probably here too, and then again on this little crevice here. Okay, so it's a lot of just kind of layering underneath here and here. And then I'm gonna clean this up. Okie dokie, so there we have it. This is what we have for the hair, more or less. Of course, there's also like ways to improve the look, like kind of changing up the shadow here just a bit. And then there we go. Like that. And perhaps we could add a little bit of shadow here. So I'm just gonna put this whole area in shadow, maybe add a little bit of a buffer highlight in there so that it's not too dark. Here, because our excuse is the wing is here blocking the sunlight, so that is what we're gonna use as our excuse. Probably gonna change the shape here, but just lower that down slightly. Move the head over here just a tad, clean up the hair laying on the torso. Gonna isolate this side a bit, make sure this side is shaded. Copy, paste, and then darken that up. Sometimes it's a bit too dark, so you can kind of erase some of it, and then I'm gonna put the color blue as buffer. Buffer as in just kind of neutralizing the super dark areas, because sometimes you need like a secondary highlight area in a shaded area to kind of softening it up. Intensify the shadow here, add a little buffer, which is the skin tone. Oftentimes I like to just use the skin tone on the hair just to softening it up, and just kind of add a bit more shadow. There we go. This is before, after. After, just a little bit softer. Merge that down. Gonna like tweak the head a bit more. and then going back to the, oh gosh, nope, that doesn't look good. A lot of the time it's also by just looking at the preview, seeing if it works or not. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So yep, that's how it goes. Okay, so now I'm gonna select the chest this area, and then I'm gonna fix that a bit more even, and also clean up the arm behind. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select it and then just blend it in, trying to keep in mind what helps make the other part of the character pop out, so that I know if I should make the arm lighter or darker, depending on what frames the dress better. And let's go with this color, so darker color, and then we're gonna go for a lighter color. So we're gonna use this color here, and you know what, we can even go lighter just for a more intense look, more contrasted look. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put a small buffer here. Probably make this whole arm fairly light because gotta make sure that it stands out against the hair underneath as well. So there's a lot to consider in terms of value. Gotta make sure the different elements of the character stand out. Alright guys, we are around 30 minutes away from being the 2 hours mark. And I think we made pretty good headway. I just want to go ahead and do a couple of things. I'm going to kind of bring the hair over just a little bit so it doesn't feel so unbalanced, and I'll probably add a little bit of hair strand on this side as well. So I'm just going to use the lasso tool and kind of paint out where I want the hair strands to be on the other side. Also, I'm going to continue off of whatever I created previously. So just fill that in with the airbrush. I usually prefer to fill it in with airbrush since it's a lot easier. And perhaps we can add some hair strands on this side as well. So again, using the lasso tool to kind of paint that out. Okay, I think that should work. And then of course going back to kind of fill whatever's missing back in, or just refine it again. Okay, so gonna use a highlighting color and just kind of start refining some of these areas here. Though I don't think there needs to be too much shadow going on here, since this side is supposed to be like the shadow layer. So now I'm gonna go ahead and move the head up a little to give her more of an elegant neck. And also going to kind of stretch her body out just a little bit to give her more of a elegant figure as well. All about that exaggeration, of course. Fill this part in. I noticed that it was not filled in. And then erase that part. Erase some of these areas. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on the wings. I think, let me just show you guys. I have made the wings slightly bigger, so we're gonna work on the wings a little just to give a bit more detail. So once again, using a combination of the solid round brush and airbrush, just going on ahead and kind of blending some of these feathers in, of course using the lasso tool to help secure some of these areas. And then just going to go ahead and make like little wing feather patterns, and then filling it in with lighter color, and then pretty much just kind of do the same thing again down here, just layering it on, and then occasionally inverting the selection to push shadow underneath, and so on and so forth. So here too. Okay, and probably gonna make a little shadow underneath these two feathers, and like that, and then just kind of making this type of silhouette, and then I'm gonna inverse it to give a bit of shadow underneath these parts, and gonna go into solid round brush fully, and then just kind of creating the texture by going about with this brush stroke pattern. Okay, just gonna indicate a little bit of the feather here too, and now we're gonna go for each of these strands and then kind of adding shadow underneath each of them using the airbrush for best result. And then once again gonna create these little feathers like that, and making sure that they are lighter than what's underneath so that we can kind of tell. And of course invert, apply shadow underneath each, just towards the bottom. We don't want to go too crazy with it. So now we have a very super textured, but it's missing some definition for sure. You can fix that later. For now, let's kind of clean this up a bit. There we go. And add some shadow underneath this feather. Define this feather, lock down the layer, kind of blend this out. So more or less we have the general texture of the wing. So now what I'm gonna do is just select this whole area, still with my layer lock, and then I'm gonna just put this entire area in shadow. And we're gonna add a little bit of a buffer highlight into the shadow, which I'm gonna use my her skin tone to do so, just to give a bit of balance between cool tones and warm tone. Then going back here, and then going back here with a shadow like this. And what I'm gonna do is just select this whole area like this, and we'll just copy, paste, adjustment brightness, and make it really bright. That way there's a clear divide between the side and the inner area, and this will give a bit more dimension to the wings. So now that the contrast is very obvious, and then you can do a little bit of that little feather fur on top just for texture's sake. And then what we could do, go here and add a little bit of warm color in here to neutralize the coolness. On top of that, we can indicate a little bit of shadow, perhaps casted by the elbow, and let me just constrain that down, and then maybe some more shadow created by the hair and the hips and whatnot. So now it's feeling a little bit more 3D, I would say. That. Just going to darken these areas. And then just lighten that one area just for contrast sake. So this is before, after, just adding a bit more shadow and whatnot. I'm just going to erase a bit of what I have put here. Alright, that should be good. Happy with it. Going back to the hair area, I would like to lighten this strand up as if this strand's catching lighting. And I'm just gonna go ahead and darken this area up a bit more. Down here too. Alright, I think it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. Okay, so now, probably gonna work on the other wing now. Before I do that, I'm just gonna rotate it back. As always, it's good to rotate it horizontal a few times while you're working so that you don't get too used to one single side. This way you can kind of be a bit more vigilant when it comes to your areas. Just going to kind of tweaking the shape slightly to make it go a little bit curved downward. That way it creates a pretty frame for the wings. Like that. Okay. So for the other side, what you can kind of do is use this wing as texture. So I'm just gonna copy, Control Shift V to paste, Control T transform, and kind of push it onto the other side. So we don't want to make it too obvious that we duplicate it. So what I'm gonna do, constrain this down, Alt click to the bottom layer, and just kind of make it fit the new mold. At the same time, have to edit it. So the other lighting, what we have is this part is dark. These whole part are dark. And then we have like this area that's light. So just have to change that up. Make this area light. And this is how you use the other wing, sort of like a texture. Let's see what it looks like. Let's constrain it down. So that's pretty much what we have. Of course you can finesse it a bit more. Merge that down. Okay. Then going back to normal layer mode. So what we're gonna do is go down that, and then what we're gonna do is copy this one part, paste it, move it to the other side, and we're just going to keep, I guess we're gonna bring it down a little actually, so that we can get that nice wing like texture, a few feather-ish. There we go. Okay, merge it down, block it, and then going to soft light, airbrush to airbrush the feather down here, making sure that it doesn't look super blocky. Another thing with working with the lasso tool is sometimes it gets a little too robotic looking, so we have to always find a way to soften that up whether that is using the airbrush to make it a little softer or just manually painting over some of these areas so that it doesn't 100% look super blocky. Okay, and then I'm gonna just kind of paint over it manually with the solid round brush. Like that, and then kind of isolating these shaded area. Like that. There we go. And then just kind of blur it out afterwards. So I forgot I haven't used that quite a bit. Like that. So now it's kind of really smooth and we don't really want that. So I'm gonna try to add somewhat of a texture back in. So again, using the lasso tool, kind of isolating these different feather strands, and then just kind of using the lasso tool to put shadow under, like so. And then we can add a secondary color, which is the skin tone. Just bring a bit of warmth in there. Now that that's done, what we're gonna do now again is just to isolate just a certain part of the wing and make it really, really bright. Like that part. Okay, let me just copy paste on a separate layer. Make that area super bright for highlight. And then of course going back, kind of reducing the raggediness of it. Add a little bit of shadow. There we go. Okay, I think that looks good. Well, looks better. Just gonna change the shape slightly. There we go. Okay, so this is what we have for the wings before, after. Well, it's definitely a little bit better in terms of rendering. So now what I'm gonna do is gonna select the whole dress and then I'm going to edit it. So copy paste, going to go into adjustment, light, make it really, really colorful. Adjustment, hue saturation, reduce the saturation slightly to match what we have going on. And then auto contrast, that's too intense. Fade, actually let's not fade, let's just keep it like that, and then we're gonna lock it down. And of course gotta neutralize it with a bit of cool tone, so I'm gonna use blue. And then just kind of blend that blue. Just kind of softening it up. And then kind of doing the same, carrying it down to the little ripples of the dress. Like this. And just a little bit inside the little shadow area. And just kind of slowly blending it in. I'm using the airbrush just because it's easy. It's a lot faster to blend with the airbrush, but I have to be careful not to make it super soft looking, to lose the shape. So yeah, just balancing that out. Add a little bit of blue. Actually, let me just add a bit of, actually also add a skin tone in here as well to neutralize the super dark areas. Gonna use blue here. and then extending that up. That, and then blurring that out. Let's reduce, have a look again. Go to auto contrast, nothing happens. And then I'm gonna see what I can do here. Ooh, that is really bright. What if I do... So pretty much just ending up adjusting it quite a bit. And then even changing the colors up a little. Yeah, that's more like the color, I think. Yeah, it is. And just going to... Whoa, that is bright. Okay, reducing it slightly. And what I'm gonna do is just kind of putting it like that. Okay. I think it's coming along. Not too bad. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and start drawing the hand here. I thought I was gonna cover it with hair, but on second thought, probably best to just paint the whole arm. So I'm just gonna paint the whole arm. Just kind of clean this up. And like that. Just going to fix that and put highlight on this side. And over here too. Just kind of fixing how I shaded the chest area. And then I'm going to blur that, blend that in. And then I'm going to add a little bit of shadow on this side, like this. Actually, no, not like that. Maybe like that? No, wait. Like this, wait. Going to darken. Gonna like this. And then darken here. And then going to the head layer and lighten, oh gosh, lighten this hair strand here, but now it's kind of out of place, so I'm going to bring that down. So here, and then connect it again with the lasso tool to make it easier. Deselect and kind of just paint the rest of the hair, add a little bit of strength. And okay, so now I'll try to start and putting in the ribbons. Lock that down. So I believe the ribbon goes like this. Like that. Oh gosh. There we go. some shadow going on underneath the chest. And then we have the rib cage. Define that. And go down-ish, kind of cleaning up the shape pretty much. Okay. I'm going to select this whole area. Just gonna bring up the rib cage. And then put down the arms. That. Okay. Alright. Now I have a feeling that the body needs to be a bit wider, so just kind of make the body a little wider. Also, probably this part needs to be darker as well. Losing a bit of that dimension here because not enough shadow, so adding the shadow back, and it's already feeling better. There we go. Okay, it's getting there. There we go. And also gonna have a look at the arm here. Have it in shadow. And the face, probably. Oh god, the face is always the toughest part. I'm just way too picky about it. I'll just finish the little hands first. So usually the hands, when I draw hands, it's actually quite rough. I don't actually use the solid round brush to paint the hands. I often use the airbrush, but at a much smaller size, thus giving the impression of sharpness in the brush. But it's actually airbrush a lot of the times, so that I get that soft effect. There we go. Okay, now let's see what we can do here. I'm going to fix some of these areas, and then definitely the face needs work. So I'll start working on the face a bit more. So continue on adding the grayish color there to neutralize certain things. Now I'm gonna go ahead and work on the nose a little. That. And just kind of painting some hair strands hiding her face. Not much to say here, but just continue to refine and add texture. Actually, maybe even start making the shadow just a bit more intense. So I'm just selecting the areas where I think will likely be in shadow, copy, and paste, and then make the shadow darker and lock down the shadow, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that buffer inside the shadow. So for the wings, a bit of red, same for the hair and the face, kind of like that. Add down, copy the whole head, move it down a little. I'm gonna go into a much darker red. Just gonna color the lips. Let's actually see what I had. Okay, it's kind of pink. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and probably need to move the pupils of the eyes a bit more over here. This way. So right now the canvas size is actually, I'm feeling like it's not big enough for me to give enough detail to the face at this point, just because I'm feeling like always zooming in, but zooming in doesn't really help. You should never zoom in. If you want to zoom in, that means your canvas is not big enough. So I'm kind of like, my canvas is not big enough. But if we increase the canvas, I'm afraid this file is gonna be way big. So we're just gonna keep it this size. Try to do the best that we can. There we go. Maybe make the eyebrows up here. And also, I would like to give a light blush to the face. And to the nose, and also maybe a little bit of a highlight on the nose and on the lips and the eyes, like that. Pretty simple. I would say simple for my standards. This is before, this is after, just a little bit more flush. There we go. And for the hair, let's kind of use a bit of airbrush and soften some of these areas up. And then of course add skin tone as buffer in the shadow. Helps soften the whole thing, the whole area. There we go. Okay, and then, okay, so this is it's been 2 hours officially at least. So that's what we have before, after. So it's a little bit more, actually the canvas got way bigger because I needed more space. I needed more room to refine and such. So this is what we have after 2 hours. Of course there's still quite a bit of stuff to do. Like for example, really want to add shadow over here, like here, just so that her body could be more obvious and stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, this is what we have after 2 hours. Kind of want to enhance a few of these areas, so we'll do that later. Alright guys, at this point we're at 2 hour stretch, so I'm thinking we do another hour and see where we get, but for this hour I might be a little bit more quiet since this is where I kind of like stop talking as much because it gets to the point where I have to focus in order to make this work. But I just want to let you guys know we'll probably do a third hour if I can get to that. But anyways, let's get started, since I do know we still got a few things to refine, such as the hair, the face, and the wings. I kind of want to make it a little bit more glowy, so let's just get started then. So first off, I would like to take the opportunity and work on these hands a little. Probably gonna clean that up a little, like that. And especially the arm part, I don't think it's been defined yet, so get started. Zoom in 100%. So for hands, I like to start off with a blob and somewhat of a shape, and then I go in with a much darker color to kind of accentuate or define the shape, like that. And then I go in for more of a detail afterwards. Actually, maybe I should make her have her hands open instead of closed. So I'm just gonna make her hand open instead. Of course, I have to fix that. So using the lasso tool always helps with changing the shape up or kind of just keeping it nice and clean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close that down, and then I'm gonna go in and start kind of blending it in like that. Actually, I would like to kind of make this a little lower, like that. Okay, and clean that up. Clean this up too. I'm not really sure if I like this pose. I'm gonna bring it here maybe. Maybe like that. Maybe this will work a little better. So oftentimes I would do this just to see kind of how everything looks and which hand pose would work better for the character composition and whatnot. Okay, let me bring these fingers in here. That, I think this pose works a little better. And I'm gonna go in with a warmer color. Usually a warmer color will make your fingers look a little bit better and less flat. Less flat and less plasticky like, since you have a little bit of a variation going on, which is always good. Just going to find the arm, and we can do a few shadows on the arm. These are kind of like a shadow perhaps casted by the hair. So I'm just gonna do the upper two areas and then blend that in. And also gonna use the lasso tool again. And just kind of fix that and also make it a bit more intense, like that. Unlock, go to blur, there we go, and then over here unlock, blend that in, kind of make this shadow a little bit better, corner that a bit better, and then working on the ribbon and the dress. Okay, so for the ribbon, let's start off with a bit of highlight. So using a highlight shade of the ribbon. Just gonna go in and add some highlight. Especially here. There we go. And then of course we have the ribbon on the neck as well, so add a few of that and then layer it on with shadow. Let's also clean up the neck. There we go. Go. Okay, it's getting there. Probably gonna grab this huge part here and just kind of push it over just so the shape is nice and clean. Same with here. Push it over so the shape is nice and clean. And here too, kind of wanna make it go over here a bit more, or even on that side like that, and then just kind of blend that in. And kind of blend this as best as I can. And not really sure if I'm digging the whole cross ribbon look, but actually I think it might have been a little better back then. Yeah, it's definitely better back then. Okay, so this is what we have so far. I think this area needs a little bit of refining, so I'm gonna create another layer on top just in case I don't like what I have. I can always erase it. So continue on with the airbrush. Just going to airbrush this area, constrain it, just going down like this. Gonna use the lasso tool to select this area here, and then have a bit of glossiness going on in the fabric, and then try to blend that in like that. And then just kind of gloss that up, make it nice and shiny. This. And kind of also clean up this area too. Let's kind of indicate some of these areas where I'm gonna put shadow in, like that. It's going to blend that in. Okay, so that actually looks a lot better. Gonna go over here and clean that up a bit. Okay, and let's see, it's really blue down here, so let's add a bit more bluish tint towards the bottom area. Like that. There we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back here and refine the neck and collarbone area. There we go. Maybe add a little bit of pink to the shoulder. A little bit more brightness on the fingers here. Guess on the shoulder too. Like that. Before, after, let me just show you guys. Maybe not the shoulder or the arms, but definitely the skirt. I do like how it looks. So this is how pretty much I determine what goes and what doesn't, just purely on trying stuff out and on a separate layer just in case. Let me just increase the highlight down here. And we're just going to indicate a little bit of shadow going down. Actually, yes, just a little bit. And also here too. Probably gonna simulate a bit of shadow between the hair on the character. So just gonna put that out there and then shade that in. That just to emulate the shadow of the hair, and also at the same time creates a bit of interest. And then just blend the shadow into the dress like this. And then gonna go in here and I'm gonna really shadow this part, but very softly like that. Okay, now here too, let's try just kind of contouring that area and around the hips here too. So let's zoom out, have a look. Before, after. It's definitely a lot more refined. Can even like increase the intensity and whatnot. Maybe this is too intense, we can go and reduce the color. There we go. Okay, this is definitely a lot more smooth. I kind of like it. It's a bit more fitting, which is something I evolved to kind of like to paint more than the looser fitting. Okay, so now I'm gonna merge that in because I'm happy with it. Now I am gonna go ahead and try to work on the face. Now the problem with this is in order to work on the face a bit better, I need to increase the size of the canvas elsewhere. So it's already pretty big. Damn. Let's see if I can make it just a little bit bigger, because it's gonna be hard to work on a face that is on a canvas where you feel the need to zoom in. So at least with this little bit of increase, it'll be slightly better. So here we are, we have the face, so now we can work on it a little bit better. So first off, trying to get that eyeliner going. I'm kind of feeling perhaps adding a little bit of eyeliner might be cool, or eyeshadow underneath, maybe a little purple and pink, then going up into her crease. adding a bit of pink in there. And then eyelashes, make them longer. And also, I think the eyes should be a lot lighter, just because in the original concept her eyes are quite light. And then increase the white of the eyes like that, and maybe add some shadow underneath. Give her pupils, and the lips. Do know that she's sort of pouting in the original concept, so I'm gonna try to do a halfway between that and just a normal lip pose like that. In the original, her eyes are quite wide, so try to do that. Before, after. Then of course we have the nose. The original is pretty. This is when I first started, a nose to me was like a board, pretty much. This is the most simplified version that my brain could, well, not the most complex thing my brain had to come up with back then, when I didn't really have much experience with painting faces, and that's what I could gather for nose, at least, because I was trying to paint a more or less realistic nose. I mean, it came out like that. It was fun though, it was fun. Frustrating over. I would spend quite a bit of time trying to get the nose right. I think, yeah, noses definitely were my enemy back then. But luckily I just kept drawing noses, and now I think I got a hang of it, more or less. But of course there are always times where my faces look awkward, as always. I think any artist could tell you that they're not at their 100% all the time. It's hard to be at 100 all the time. Anyways, just kind of shading the face, and using my lasso tool to refine. Shadow that area. Go. Just kind of using the lasso tool to isolate the shadow and then add lighting inside the shadow. That way I think it creates a softer look. And continue on with the hair. Of course, needs a bit more shading. This. There we go. It's a little bit more defined, I think. And I'm going to gonna see if I can add a little bit of a little gradient highlight. So just squeezing lighting between two darker areas is what I'm doing. But to be honest, it's not super effective. At least I don't think it looks appealing to my eyes. So usually I would determine based on that if I find it works or not, but also sometimes I can't really see it that well because I've been working on one piece for too long, so that also affects it. But a lot of times when that happens, I think the best solution is just to quit and come back in a few hours or even after you've slept, so that you have efficient time to refresh your mind. Just put more shadow there. Now it's getting really dark up on this forehead. Just indicate a little bit. There we go. Before, after. Before, after, yeah. This is definitely not it. You try to add a little bit of highlight over here. Let's see if it works. Maybe if this was higher. So I'm trying to figure out if this lighting would look better. Not the biggest fan of this. Can erase parts of it. So this is where having it on a separate layer comes in handy. You can always erase. So now for the wings now. Let me erase that part. Or at least this part. So for the wings, what I'm gonna do is close the layer. I would like to see how this goes. I would like to make it glowy. So I'm just gonna... Ooh, that's actually pretty. So I pretty much use color dodge on the brush mode and just kind of made it glowy. And then when that happens, you have the opportunity to have fun with the surrounding area, such as the hair, because then you can add some interesting lighting, kind of like this, and maybe a bit of here, 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 like that. So zoom out, have a look, see here. Definitely a lot more interesting. Before, after. Definitely looks a little bit better. I do, however, like to edit the face just a tad. Bring down the cranium. Maybe make the wings a little bigger. Like that. And face over here a bit more. Press OK. Actually, move this up. Have a look-see. Sometimes you can just kind of feel it. Yeah, I think that's not too bad. Let me darken the hair up over here. And here. Okay, and also kind of fixing the lighting for the hair. I feel like this part definitely needs to be a little darker, just because the upper head is definitely needing a bit more framing, so making the background just a little darker to frame the head here. so that the colors would pop a bit more. There we go. Okay, and also there. Clean that up. Move downwards. Okay, so now gonna go into the wings. I would like to add a little bit of pink here. This is the excuse I needed to add a bit of interest on the wing. Cast it from the little pink wings up on her head. Okay, and let's add hair here. That. And just kind of bring it down. Have the icing shadow on that side. And then having a little bit in the shadow on this side. And I guess trying to make her lips a little poutier. And add a defined nose bridge. And now for the hair, in the other layer, gonna add a bit of highlight there and in these areas. Since we have our highlight color, it'll be a lot easier to kind of paint some more highlight on. So kind of pretty much following what I have going on the hair over here. I'm following the shading style, so shadow and then highlight. Highlight on the shadow shaded area like that. And of course need some clumps, defined clumps, meaning this type of texture, so that it doesn't look super flat by itself. And need a little here in this area as well, in fact. There we go. Okay, zoom out, have a look-see. Before, after. It definitely changed quite a bit, to be honest. Definitely changed. Sometimes if you kind of like what you did back then, always have a spare copy so you can like copy and then paste it onto your updated one and just like have just a little bit of it poke through so that you can always do like a mix between before and after. So before, after, you can have like a bit of that. And I have this energy looking thing. I'm just gonna use a stock photo. So I'm gonna go ahead and take one of my stock photos. Alright guys, I got my stock photo. I'm not really sure where I got this from, but I think it was from Google. I was trying to find like some interesting ice stuff, but yeah, this was found on Google, and of course we need to be able to make sure it's not like exactly this because we don't want to get in trouble. But hey, it looks really good. So this is gonna be my base. I'm going to kind of elaborate. So I think I was trying to draw like wind or something like that. So imagine I spell art. I guess this was from a game, but yeah, I took it as a fun texture to use. So yeah, let's make a new layer and then try to do the thing that we were doing. So it's like making little wind stuff. So kind of like that. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of take the color already provided here and trying to kind of do similar concept as I did before. At the same time, kind of making sure to edit this enough so that it's not like recognizable too much, because we don't want to be like using this as it is. Always need to, if you're taking an image off of the internet, if you didn't pay for it, you have to make sure that it is not its original form if you use it. That way it's not I guess it's still, I mean, it's better than it's better than just straight on copy and paste. This is what it's about. Trying to save time by using images online, but at the same time you have to use it in a smart way and not just straight up copy it. So this is what I did, kind of just using the colors more or less to form this type of little swirly thing, just kind of like here. So yeah, this is what I have here. Now that we have that done, what I'm gonna do now is just one sec. Gonna do is kind of merge the head and the body together so that I can do one general thing now. So general shading. So I would like to put this part in shadow. Maybe use that. And of course I would like the wings to be still quite bright, and also the head too, this part of the face too, and gonna do this type of shadow like that. I'm going to lower that and make another layer, going to soft light, and then gonna go ahead and intensify some of these light sources. Just making sure it's really bright. And of course at the same time gonna have more of a blue tint here, just so it feels a bit more influence. As in the, gosh, whoops, lower that. As in, I would like this shiny thing to be a bit more evident, casting light effects on the rest of the character. Need to make sure this is really blue, like that. Or even have her whole hand be blue, and then kind of have some of the face also has a bit of that lighting, and of course leave some of the fingers out of it. Let's add a bit of blue on this side. Oh gosh, okay, maybe not that much. Let me ooh, that actually looks good. Kinda like that. So just kind of put all of that in dark. Whoa, it's so dark. And this is the... Let's go ahead and erase bits of this. Like that. And just kind of lower that. Maybe I can just exclude the hair so it's a bit more bright. And just indicate a little bit of the lighting on the other side of the face. Let's go. There we go. Somewhat like that. Guess not that dark, but try to go somewhat like this in the middle. So just slightly, but you can still feel it. Lock that down. Okay. Let's see if I can make the surrounding color this color, a blue tint, and just kind of go a bit deeper, like that, and make it light, actually darker or lighter at this color. Okay, so now I'm gonna try to add a bit of some more intense lighting, pretty much like that. That might be a little too intense, but trying to figure out how I can make this a little bit more dynamic, so to say. So I can do a bunch of lighting on the face, casted by the hair, and also maybe even go to darken, which is to make the area darker. Let's go like that, and we can also indicate a little bit of the blue as highlight. That. And maybe just have a little bit of, actually, yeah, let's keep this. Erase the lighting there just a tad, or even not having it. And make that area darker. And then make this area lighter. Okay. I think this should do it. Close that. And then gonna use a brighter color and just going to shade the sky in general. even in the fabric area. Gonna add a bit of blue. Add it around the skirt. Like that. Gonna make the forehead a little lighter. Maybe it would be better if I also made the top lighter too by adding the highlight up top as well, the lighting like that, and then indicate a little bit of the forehead in highlight. Maybe that would help. Let's just try it out. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. It's not too bad. It's just the hair needs to be a little bit lighter and also paler. Like that. Let's go to normal. And let me see if I can edit this. And then color balance. Like that. Just kind of playing around with the color to see which one looks good. And also going into lighting, kind of indicate a bit of the outside light onto the character always helps. Let's make it a bit more ethereal looking. Like that. But I guess not that much as to a bit more pink on the side. And then I'm going to erase the center of the head just so her face shows a bit better. Like that. So, oh gosh, maybe it's a bit too much. I think so. Let me just erase the eye so that I can see it. The lips too. So, also the arms. So in general, lower this. Let's flip this back to where it was. Here. So this is the editing. Just going to make sure the eyebrows are obvious. And I'm going to duplicate, merge down, blur, gloss blur, blur that, and reduce, go to saturation, lower it, increase the highlight, go to soft light. So this helps to increase the contrast or soften up a little bit. It's like a photo filter. So you kind of just do that. You can make it more colorful or less colorful. I think this looks a little better. So after, just turn on the effects once again, and there you have it. Maybe not that much, maybe just a little bit. And also I like to use color lookup. It has some really interesting filters that you guys can check out. Like this. This is a really cute little filter, really soft looking. That's cute. Maybe reduce this a little. And color lookup, let's go for this percentage. And last but not least, what I like to do is just copy paste the whole thing. Let's copy paste this. Copy, merge, paste, and go to auto contrast. It kind of auto contrasts to what the computer thinks the optimal contrast is. I think it's a bit too dark. Just going to remove some of the areas where I think it's way too much. Or actually, let's see how it looks under here. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, let's reduce that. Put it back, reduce it. And then what we could do, adjustment, color balance. You can get another layer of color balance one more time. Something like that. But yeah. Before, after. So this is around 3. Actually, we are around 10 minutes-ish away from 3 hours in, but there you have it, guys. This is around 3 hours in. This is what we have. Of course, you can always lower it and whatnot, and I might actually do a bit more editing on the side. But yeah, this is pretty much it for this voiceover guide. Of course, this phase takes the longest because you're always like trying to refine and change it up in a way that you feel like it works better. So let's have a look. See, first sketch 10 minutes and then 30 minutes in, and then 1 hour later. This is 2 hours, and then 3 hours. So 3 hours, I was just trying to make it look a little bit better. But to be honest, this could be, let me just kind of line it up to what we had underneath here. Literally, I can do this and just have an in-between of 3 hours and 2 hours. I think this is a good combination. It's like a good middle ground. Because sometimes you feel like, oh, I like the old version better, and that's true for a lot of cases. I usually do this quite a bit, like go back. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that voiceover tutorial. Hope you guys have a great day or great night, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great one, guys.